to the 19th century and actually go up to a sepoy in India and ask him, would you prefer to be strapped to a cannon and blown up or hung? 9 times out of 10 will say, I prefer the cannon, please. Now, of course, there are some other questions you might want to ask a sepoy in India in the 19th century, such as, would you prefer to be strapped to a cannon and blown up or not? This being your own country and that. And there are some questions he might like to ask you, such as, what's the difference between this empire thing and armed robbery? So, by the way, that's not even the weirdest thing I've heard on the radio recently. I don't know if Southern FM had a good war. Local radio where I live did not. I was listening to LBC, News for London 11 something or other, on the day. Remember when John Simpson was nearly blown up in Mosul? And he sent this report moments later, and he was talking about how, you know, the bomb fell so close, he could read the markings on it. And one minute everyone he knew was there, the next minute they're all dead, legs and arms flying past him. He ends his report with the phrase, it was a scene of horror. They cut back the ankle on LBC who said, OK, over to Sally at the travel desk now to find out if it's a scene of horror on the A406. Woo! I reckon if the Taliban's plan of using a DeLorean car powered by lightning striking a church steeple to travel back in time is going to work, 1776 is already too late. The battle has been fought and lost. James Madison, one of the main framers of the US Constitution, is already saying the prime responsibility of government is to protect the minority of the opulent from the majority. So I reckon we've got to go back earlier to when things are still in the balance, July the 25th, 1609, when the Sea Venture, a ship chartered by the Virginia Company, is in the last leg of her voyage from Plymouth across the Atlantic to England's first colony in the New World, and it's taking 250 replacement workers to the tobacco plantations in Virginia. And bear in mind, this is yonks before most of your Pilgrim Fathers go out, but we never hear about these English men and women going to America because they are altogether the wrong sort of people. In March 1609, the Virginia Company applied to the Mayor of London to ease the city of swarms of unnecessary inmates, idle persons, irregular youths of no religion and extreme poverty, Jacobean and Johnny Rottens. There's no point living in London, it's tedious. I hate it here, everyone's a moron. I'm going to America, they appreciate talent there. Dispossessed farm labourers is on board the Sea Venture. Also, 2 Native American Powhatan Indians, Namantuck and Matchumps, returning to Virginia after a short holiday in England. And also on board the Sea Venture are dangerous, religious, subversive elements. The Virginia Company had said to the City of London, look, colonies is a good way, as they put it, to remove the matter of sedition out of the city. And the 16th and the 17th century are full of all these brilliant underground religious sects, kind of subversive, but there's the Antinomians, the Muggletonians, the Moravians on board the Sea Venture, best of the lot, the Anabaptists.
Well, you see, we believe that all men and women are saints. Because, you see, Jesus Christ became human like us. And therefore it follows that the earth belongs to the saints. And so there ought to be a community of goods. And the saints should share in the lands and estates of gentlemen and rich men.
Get in the fucking boat. July the 25th, the Sea Venture is hit by El Nino. Company Secretary William Strake describes the mighty hurricane in his journal. The winds, whistling and singing most unusually, did beat all light from heaven, which like an hell of darkness turned back upon us. Our cries were drowned in the winds in the thunder. They cut down the rigging and the sails, they chucked the luggage overboard. 2,000 tons of Atlantic Ocean smashes into the hold and the Sea Venture is shattered. between two giant rocks, but by a miracle, no loss of life. The entire crew straggle ashore onto the uninhabited island of Bermuda, the richest, healthfullest, unpleasantest place they ever saw, right, Strakey? Because there's another miracle here. There's not only is there food, like red snapper and grouper in the waters, there's feasts. Black hogs from swam ashore from a Spanish shipwreck years ago and have now bred and roamed through the island. And Strakey in his journal describes all the things that they gorge themselves upon. He talks about wildfowl that just land on your shoulder. And then at one point he says, and a giant tortoise that fed 50. Now I can't imagine a tortoise being that massive that 50 of you could eat of it, unless of course he means the verb in a slightly different sense. You know, there's the survivors of the shipwreck straggling on the shore when suddenly a catering truck pulls up with a giant tortoise in the hatch frying burgers. Get some more onions out of the freezer, Lance. Smells delicious. How do we pay you? Lettuce.
Yes, but you see, there ought to be a community of goods. Lettuce, one and only currency on my island. Oh, there's my cigarettes, my mother.
Bermuda caused them utterly to forget or desire ever to return from thence. They lived in such peace, plenty and ease. Because the commoners are saying, you can keep Virginia, we're going to stay in Bermuda, it's an earthly paradise and we don't need to work. And this is a problem for Sir Thomas Gates, who's going to be the military governor of Virginia. It's a problem for the militia, who kind of won't get paid unless they go with Gates. It's a problem for Sir George Somers, chief executive of the Virginia Company. And they start off, Gates and Somers, they start off by saying to the commoners, look, trust us, you know, compared to Virginia, Bermuda is like Lancing. Forget about it. It's White Hawk, it's nothing. At this, the sailors speak up. They say, in Virginia, nothing must be expected but wretchedness and labour with many wants and a churlish entreaty, there being neither fish, flesh nor fowl there, which here at ease and plenty might be enjoyed. Because the sailors, they've already been to Virginia once before, they've made the return trip, and they know the only reason for the voyage of the Sea Venture is because of the original 235 settlers they left in Virginia. Famine has claimed all but 60. And them 60 that's still alive are digging up the dead, eating leather boots, eating serpents, none of which is mentioned by John Denver and Take Me Home Country Road to the Place I Belong, West Virginia. So the commoners join with the sailors and they withdraw into the woods to set up their own commune. Unfortunately, Gates has been invested by the Virginia Company with the authority to declare martial law and execute anyone who gets in the way of the company fulfilling its charter. Nowadays, of course, we can't imagine a corporation having that kind of power. But I urge you to make the effort of historical imagination and put yourself into the very different world of the early 17th century. They attack the commune, they shoot one, hang another, clap another in irons for verbal mutiny, for saying, I don't want to go to Virginia, it's all country and western music. And flared trousers. At gunpoint and pike point, they spend the next 42 weeks making from the wreck of the Sea Venture 2 replacement ships, the Deliverance and the Patience. And finally, May 1610, they're ready to set sail for the last leg of their journey. But just before the off, the catering tortoise trundles down to the shore and he hands out packed lunches to all the commoners that are going on the voyage. And he says to them,
When you get to Virginia, don't forget what you learned here on the island of Bermuda.
What have we learnt?
That will become clear to you when you get there.
They arrive in Golden Virginia and already the land's been carved up, just a few big families own it all, and they erupt what Strakey calls a tempest of dissension. No one accepts the authority of Gates and Somers. 1 in 7 settlers runs away from Jamestown, follows Namantuck and Matchumps, goes and lives with the Powhatan Indians, partly for reason that victuals was scarce with us, partly for common cause. Because the same thing happening to the Powhatan land is happening to the land in England. And this is still a live issue. I'm on tour at the minute when I do gigs in places like, I know, Dover. People come up to me after the show and say, as a matter of fact, Robert, the Queen isn't a parasite. No, as a matter of fact, I think you'll find most of her money comes from her land. And you think, whose land? Our land, taken from us by theft and murder and the clever use of hedges.